Naruto it is then. So let's get Naruto on the list because I watched that like yesterday. Where am I putting it? I D? You putting it in D? It may be a D. It may be a D. I'd say D is probably appropriate. So Naruto is interesting. I don't think it's particularly good. It has potential. Like the manga could be good, potentially. It's a little bit too high concept for its own good in the typical OVA way, where like it is seemingly trying to stick a bunch of story in a very short period of time. Even though this one's like, I think this one's 80 minutes. No, no, I think it's like 75 minutes, and it goes very high concept, very fast. This movie, well, this OVA is effectively They Live, but a shojo. But then it also seems to lead. I think I saw someone say this once that it kind of turns into 2001: A Space Odyssey. So like it's like shojo They Live that transforms into 2001, which I guess is pretty synonymous with the era we're talking about. It's just that simple. Like the sort of absurdity of it is kind of interesting, but also it's not particularly the most well made thing. It's jumps between so much stuff going on, and the sort of character motivation or the character relations are very weak. In that there are just characters that exist, and then they have relations. It's that kind of thing where it's like it's kind of assumed. You don't really have the time to establish it because it just moves so quickly through different things, and there's like an alien space war happening too with the They Live shit, and then the reasons why it's happening are so far. I don't even fucking understand in the end because I was like, this is just fucking non. It's like not. It's like dribble by the end of it. I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm sure the manga may explain it better, but I mean, most of this is typical of an OVA, I suppose, but it doesn't mean it's good. It's somewhat curious. At least with this one, I'm like, this was kind of like batshit enough where I was like, well, it went on a journey. We started with like at school, the lesson was going on. Like they're fucking doing a lesson on, I don't know, people, starving in different countries or whatever. And then it like that happens, and then suddenly it's like aliens, teleporting children, telepaths, empaths, conspiracy, your name, not your name, fucking they live, fucking 4D chess, it just keeps going. So I can't say I like hated it, but I feel like you could do better. I was really maybe the positions that I was really kind of I was really dragging my feet with this one because I was like, oh, it's fucking 80 minutes long, and it's like I've never heard of this. It's 80 minutes long. It's made by a nobody studio. It's probably gonna be a mess, and it came out like at least being like, okay, there's at least something here. I think at least what this one has, maybe some other OVAs don't, is that it has a source material it's based on. Well, like there are a lot of OVAs which we'll be talking about today, which kind of do this thing, but they don't have source material, and the script they've written is just it's so thin. It's so thin. All right, well, I guess we'll call that a D. I've got a lot to talk about, so I don't know if I'll say much more about it outside of like curious oddity. That's the nicest thing I can say about it. Right, here's another one I could do quite quickly. Go Go Toramon, something like that. Um, this one probably goes in the D. I don't even necessarily think it's bad, but it is so Japanese that I do not understand half the references. it was made in the 80s, so this is 86, right? The manga probably came out 85, 84. So so much of it seems like you could have 7,000 translator notes. The version I watched didn't have any translator notes, but like you could have potentially a bajillion translator notes on this because it feels like every second of it is like a reference to pop culture of the time, very specifically Japanese pop culture, Japanese culture, Japanese. It just kind of like it's like that. So like I don't even think it's like a gag manga adaptation. It's 30 minutes. I thought it was supposed to be baseball, but it's not really just baseball. But there is a baseball team, I guess, are the main characters. But it's sort of a bit more like general culture stuff. But it's a bit all over the place. And I'm sure if you were a big baseball fan in 1985 in Japan, and you read this more and you got the reference, maybe you'd be like, yeah. But like to me, it's like the equivalent of a sumo sort of like absurd, like that kind of sumo culture absurdity thing where like it's just like gobbledygook, but it's from 1985. I think it was inoffensive though, and it's Pero, so like it's good studio behind it, and like I'm sure if it's for somebody, probably not for me. I think would be the nicest way of putting it. Um, but yeah, I saw far worse. So like top of we'll see these things are more like the top of D right now because 1986 was not a good year. I'm gonna put it that way. 1986 was a bad year for OVAs overall, and we'll probably see that as I go through the list. At least in my perspective here is that like I've got about 30 entries here, and it was it was a harsh one to get through. Coming up with the next one. Oh fuck! What's this one called? This is why I need my charge tablet. I need you to be on. You got my notes on you, you bastard. Alright, I might have. Did I actually save the other version of it? Okay, let's have a look what I've got here. I created a sort of the first thing I did. I created a genre list to sort of break down the concepts of genre in '86. So this is what I have on my notes here. And you effectively have this massive quality of what I call it's about 16 titles of sci-fi tomfoolery plus girl. The first entry we had was definitely sci-fi tomfoolery with girl. You get a lot of that. It's like it'd be like mecha space girl. That is the OVA format. We're gonna see this on repeat throughout this year, definitely. Then the next one I have specifically for this year is Biker Core. We do have the one I'm going to talk about in a second is technically adjacent Biker Core, but it's also sort of a little bit outside the genre tags. But most of the works we'll see in the OVA here, especially this year, are genre works. So you have this sort of sci-fi plus girl, and if it's not that, there's like a other abbreviation of like genre tags. So you might get like horrorcore kind of stuff, like horror, or like that sort of tokusatsu / horror kind of era stuff there. You might fantasy, and there might be something like crime drama. Those are kind of like the major areas. But what do we have on my list here? What was the one I was about to do? Might be lower on here. Will we get into Kisobito? Do I have a name on here for this one that I'm about to talk about? This one is also like very obscure and not particularly very good, which will be a pattern for the next little bit. Where is the name? Where is the name? What's it called? Karuisawa Syndrome. Karuisawa Syndrome. I do not care for that one. I don't know if it's an E. There's some things there. It's probably more of a D. It's basically a drama. I guess it's like a art. I don't know if I want to say it's artsy. It's like a drama, relationship, sex, comedy, but it does a lot of random things there at once. Wind Amnesia is 80. No, I think is that 91, but that's a movie, not an OVA. But yeah, this one in particular, it's kind of biker adjacent. It's a bit all over the place. It feels very much like a bunch of manga drama stories kind of attached together. Like there's stories about like death of family members, sort of like nasty things going on with biker gangs, pregnancies and like miscarriages, but it's also kind of like a sex comedy. It kind of runs the gambit, but I don't think the drama is very good, particularly because I don't think the main character. I think the main character is like a real fucking, it's a real piece of work, a real piece of shit. You know, there's a lot of these guys in these OVAs here, where like I'm just like these guys are so, they're so horrible. Wow, that's supposed to be the protagonist. He's so bad. It's like it's just I. Maybe that's the point. Maybe it's supposed to be just like piece of shit guy wandering through life. I don't know if there's much to say about. I don't know if I have really much to say about it at all, if I'm honest. In that way, like stylistically, it's a little bit different than some of the stuff coming out. That's the nicest thing I could say about it is that like the story is a bit different because it is a drama, and that's kind of unconventional. It's like I said, it's a mixture between sex comedy, mixture between like a more melodrama. That's a bit different than a lot of these other ones. So it does have that. I think it has some moments of characterization, but it's really all over the place, and like the characters are really not very likable, at least to me. And I don't think it's offering too much interesting. This ain't some Nishi. It's not a Nishikubo work. You know, if a Nishikubo made a work like this, I could probably be getting down with it. But it's yeah. I don't know. I think it's a bit long too. In that, like maybe I would be more lean, or it wasn't so. It's one of those like. It's probably another 75-minute one if I remember right. I was like fucking hell. But yeah, not so good. Not so good. I wouldn't say. I'm afraid that's going to be the pattern here, because if I go on the next one, I think this is Pelican Road. Oh, the Kindle's starting up. Okay, that's good. I think this is it called Pelican Road? I probably have it on this list. Let me check what the name of this. This is actually not translated, at least to what I could find. This one is not translated, and I don't think it ever will be. But it's another biker core. This is literally about bike enthusiasts, and yeah, it was bad. It was not good at all. I was dealing with the raw Japanese, so like bear with me. I don't even think I've got this fucking list. Brilliant. I don't even know what the fucking name is it. I don't think most people have seen it though, because I feel like mainly in that I couldn't find a single translation of it outside of maybe a Spanish one. Oh, I just have it as Pelican. Whatever it is, it's another bike enthusiast one. I'm gonna put it in the E. The main character fucking it was, I guess it's hard when you don't have the language, so I was kind of like working off like the instinct of what I had. The main character seemed very, another like real piece of shit. He was like a real whiny, I don't know how to put this one. Just a real, I guess he's just a real brat, I think would be the way of putting it. He's just a real brat. And like it is another like intersection between like the melodrama plus motorcycles, which is, it's not that far off the last one we talked about in that way. As far as enthusiast motorcycle anime go, this year has plenty of them, and this one does not stand up against the rest. Let's put it that way. It's not particularly very well animated. It's an adaptation of a manga, which you only get a small portion of it. And what I remember most about it is that somewhere about 10 to 15 minutes in it, there's like a 5-minute montage of illustrations of the woman character in it. I guess she's supposed to be like, you know, the bombshell character, right? And it just stops to do like 5-minute montage with a song. And I don't really know why it did that. A bit confused why that happened. I assumed maybe they ran out of like time and they had to throw something together. Maybe it was supposed to be like an animated thing and then they just couldn't. So it was just illustrations from the manga, like with slow pans while some music played, and it went on for like 5 minutes. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I'll say maybe I'll move on to something that's a bit better. Maybe move on to something a bit better. I don't know. I feel enthusiast motorcycle works, there's plenty of them. We have much better things to pick from, which we will see as we go through this list. I see a few of them. This one, a little bit better. Maybe I put about here. This is I think this is Okubyo na Venus. This one is a strange oddity because it is effectively a collection of music videos that was put out to advertise an idol for, I think it was Victor Records at the time. It might be Victor. It was one of the so effectively it was funded in a way to try and promote one of their idols to the otaku industry. To be like, this is a new idol, and here's our little music videos, and we're putting it out like it's one of these things, and you're gonna watch it. I don't think it was successful because I didn't see many other of these happen again. But it is a strange thing. Now the music videos, the songs, they seem okay. The music, the animation quality is fine. They're okay music videos. They all kind of tell a story. It's like an up and coming sort of idol thing. Kind of story, doing dance training, doing it. It's all right. It's okay, I guess. It's the kind of thing where I don't even know if I'd count it usually, but it's kind of interesting in just that retrospect way, where like it exists strictly as like a marketing tool, and them using OVAs as like a format to be like, can we target this group with this? Because they probably see the success of something like Macross and be like, okay, we probably can make an idol group, like an idol, more popular by targeting these things, but they don't have anything on it. There's no girl space mecha to propel it to a potential next level. So it probably leaves itself in a very obscure place now. And I don't know if it's ever been released since Laserdisc. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah, like I said, 86 was not so good. I'm afraid overall this year has been pretty lacking. And what do we have here? Actual Earth Defense, which I believe is, oh, it might be that one. That is, what do I put it? No, I think that's a little higher up. I think that's probably like there. Another D. So this one is the epitome of sci-fi mecha girl. I don't think there's much space here. Trio, I guess a little tokusatsu is like a trio defend Earth from bad group. It's very paint by the numbers, from what I remember writing here. I think the only things I could say nice about it is that it's kind of novel in the premise of how it does, and some nice like Canada cuts, but it's very like structureless. And I feel like you've probably seen the structure many times. It's that sort of like Team Rocket type format. I guess Tatsunoko time thing where it's like bad guys up to no good maybe this week, and we're gonna stop them. And this dude who's got like missiles coming out of his body or something, he turned into a weapon. I don't know. It's very thin. It is just like the epitome of like OVA in the Canada era. So we're gonna get some action cuts in it. We're gonna get some cute girls, and there'll be some like back and forth, and then it's done. It's whatever. I guess it's kind of harmless out of the things I have seen. Now, if I was to talk about something that's worse, it's probably gonna be this one, which is about there. This is Girl Detective Club. Now I was kind of pissed off with this one because I knew it was from TMS, and I was like, I was going through a desert of like shitty OVAs, and I was like, well, TMS is an established animation group. They've got some pretty damn fine animators at their studio, at least one of them, multiple studios, right? So I was like, this one at least has to be like structured and like with some form. And I watched it, I was like, oh, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have that. It looks like shit. It looked like shit. And they do a 9. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it's very. The story is so thin. The characters are thin. The premise is thin. The animation is bad. The storyboards are bad. The only part I remember being sort of like notable is that the characters accidentally do a 9/11 with a spaceship, which was twice, and that was interesting. But like the story just kind of unfurls. It starts like very basic. One of the girls gets like kidnapped, and then like it just sort of unravels from there into this just. Again, it's all that. Again, we're back in like sci-fi girls, Yes, they literally commit to a 9/11s with a spacecraft. They smash through the building and then they reverse and smash through another like full on building, and it's like it's a bit. You know, it was a different time in '86. That's the most notable thing I could say about it. Everything else is like just absurdity, ninjas kidnapping these girls. I don't know why they're doing it, and then they get a spaceship and the school. I don't know, some shit's happening. I don't know. It's like it's so fucking all over the place. Um, yeah, I think I just wrote it's like sketchbook. It's very much just like it feels to me like if I had to assume what it was, it would be like this was made by young staff to train them because there's just so little structure and so little performance there that and I think it's an original as well. So it's like there's nothing. I don't think it even has like it's just nothing here. It's so thin, and I will be saying this a lot on this list. I'm afraid I will be saying this a lot. I I feel like I want to switch it up to like do. Oh, okay. I'm going to switch it up. This is not necessarily good, but it is another oddity, so it probably goes in the oddity pile. Maybe like here. This is Cosmo Pink D. Now, what's interesting about this one is not necessarily the animation itself, which is another sci-fi space girl mecha. Just that. Canada cuts. That is what this is. That is only what this is. But the format at which it is created is what makes it interesting to me. This came from a video magazine. A VHS that was the equivalent of a magazine for anime, and it mainly had trailers of new OVAs that will be coming out. So I assume you had a subscription to it. You got it, and they got the tape, and it has some introductions, a little bit of behind the scenes, a little bit, but usually it's mainly just trailers and some like words of the trailer and music trailers. But what was on it as well, I guess, is the selling point here is outside of it just being a collection of trailers, which obviously you can't sell to people these days, is that it had original animation. It had these small shorts that became Cosmo Pink, at least at first. I think they stopped doing this after a while, but Cosmo Pink D is just this collection of, I assume what they would have been is 5-minute shorts, like short pieces, and then they stick them all together and turn them into an OVA in '86. So like they would probably be very serviceable in that 5-minute form where it's just like a little bit, just a little taste, like oh something to kind of watch. It's like a mascot character doing the sci-fi action anime shit, and maybe in that format I think it would probably work best. But when you put it all together, it's very like samey and tired. I don't think it lives up to that. But maybe if you were watching a bunch of trailers and at the end you're like, oh, the unique clip from the mascot, that's cute. But in any other context, I don't think it's very interesting, and I think it's probably been lost to time a little bit. But again, oddity, at least it's in its creation. So that's all I can really say about it. Okay, now we can get into something that's maybe a little bit better. A little bit better. All right, Go Nagai's Violence Jack. I thought this was like C tier. This is a decent C tier. I mean, it could, maybe more of them could go better. The thing about it to me was, I thought it was decent. I thought it does what it needs to do, but I was constantly thinking about the Devilman OVA and how it's so much better. The Devilman OVA is peak, and this was like, oh, this is good. It's all right. Yeah, this is definitely a lot better than a lot of the other shit I've seen so far, but. It's a decent little. It's just Violence Jack, and this one it gets a little psychosexual and weird. It's post-apocalyptic. It's it's sort of almost like a precursor for anything. This Fist of North Star shit, and all that shit basically. But it's a very cruel world, post-apocalypse. There's a weird sex prostitute cult in this one, and Violence Jack is just this fucking feral monster who goes around killing shit. And I guess he's like immortal or something. It seems like he could just fix himself with light. I don't know the exact super premise, but it's kind of nihilistic and fucked up, and everyone dies, and Violence Jack destroys everything, and he's just a fucking walking tank, effectively, of misery. And yeah, a little bit like Chainsaw Man, I suppose. I would say it's entertaining enough. It's what do I say here? sex slave apocalypse. It's made to be trans aggressive. Violence Jack has like magical powers, I guess. I think I said here he can transform into a bird, and I was like, when the fuck did he do that? But I guess at the end he can do that. I was like, what the fuck? But it's very Go Nagai. If you're in for Go Nagai, I think it was fine. It was a fine. I think there are probably better Go Nagai OVAs out there. This one was decent. Um, it was definitely a lot better than some this year I've seen this year. Akira's reincarnation. I don't even know if I buy it because it's like Akira has like more humanity than Jack does. Jack's just like a fucking monster. He's just kind of like an aimless fucker. And like I don't know if I buy. I just don't know if I buy it. I feel like that universe is dead. Like I don't think the post-apocalypse really makes sense in that context. Considering I know that like as the story goes, he goes to hell. That's what happens in Devil Woman, is that he's in hell. Akira. So I don't know. I don't think he takes continuity too seriously. It's Go Nagai. Like if you've seen enough Go Nagai, you'll know if it's your kind of thing. It's kind of insane, absurd, ultra violent, and a little bit cruel. Um, that's what it is. But best thing we've seen on the list so far. Here's another one of a similar oak. This one I thought was better though, a little bit better. Oh, Guyver. I have seen the Guyver movies, and they are a bit of a mixed bag. But I think the concept of Guyver is kind of interesting. It's like a sort of fucked up Kamen Rider. I guess Kamen Rider is all kind of fucked up, but like it is kind of like alien Kamen Rider shit. That's kind of how I suppose I put it. It's like Shin Kamen Rider, but not the Arno Shin Kamen Rider, the Shin Kamen Rider from 1992. Living weird alien transformation henshin. It's got aura. That's what I can say about the Guyver. It doesn't always have it. I thought it was a little bit up and down. I feel like Guyver is a series that because I know there are more Guyver OVAs. And I think this one sets up the premise and it sets stuff up fairly right. But I feel like it will live and die on how it continues the story. But Guyver, the best thing I say about Guyver, in comparison to even Violence, I think is that Guyver does have aura. There are definitely moments where I was like, aura, aura, aura. And especially at the beginning when you first see it, like him fucking ripping the two guys, he rips this motherfucker's, like this alien fucker's like arms off. And it's like, whoa, okay. Actually, that might be the other alien, but the pure ultra violence and the way Guyver is pretty cool. That Guyver has like and even the guy who is, I forget his real name, but the character who is Guyver, he really lands that sort of like wistful loner Sigma kind of presentation towards the end. It's like he's got it down. He gets it. But yeah, it has some interesting moments there of like the massive alien conspiracy. I guess again, it's another kind of lay living where it's like there's this sort of alien conspiracy where they're all into, and he's sort of has to become a maverick. But there's some. I think it sort of drags a bit at certain points, but like I think the beginning and the end were pretty damn good, and that secured it for me. Where I thought it was like, yeah, that was fun. What else do I say? Yes, and also some of the. What do I say here? There was an interesting effect, I think, at one point, which towards the end, where I think they were literally warping a cell to make the background feel like it's fucked up, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. Yeah, he has a very aura-esque walk at the end, a very cool explosion of melty guts, but it's very melty core by the end of it, in terms of like it's just like this melty horror happens. There's some sort of eyebrow raising stuff, but I think when Guyver is going full cylinders, I was a bit like, yeah, this works. There is a part where like a Guyver fights a Guyver, and then they put them in an alleyway. Well, I guess they're in an underground base, and the whole place is one color, and now you can't fucking tell which one's which. And I was a bit like, guys, surely you would have understood this would have been a problem. Like, couldn't you have just made one a different color, even in like the shades of red? Like, couldn't you have just fucked around with that, made it clear which one's which? Because they both have Guyver instruments. They look basically the same. So there was that. But I thought Guyver was a good time. Show, okay. Yeah, I think it'll be on the other OVAs to kind of set me on where I stand on the Guyver as a franchise as it goes. But I'm in for it. I'm in for the fucked up Kamen Rider against aliens. So at that point when I started watching Guyver, I was like, oh, I'll take anything at this point. It was like after the amount of fucking sludge I'd walked through, Guyver was a nice change of pace. Where I was like, this is a competent. I mean, most of these probably never made it to the US. Here's another one that's a piece of shit. I think that's called Root X. Let me see if I can find it. This one sucks. If I was to be like fucking Beavis, about this sucks. That was my experience with it. What was it called? Oh, maybe it's down on my list. It's probably fucking nightmare to get now with CEO. You probably can't even find that now because it'll think you're actually talking about literally a root search. So this one is basically just Alien, which I guess, par for the course, I suppose. Sci-fi, girl, space, some telepath shit. But like this is pretty much just Alien with like a couple extra steps. It reminded me actually of that like parody episode of Red Dwarf, which is kind of like Alien. But like that's really all it is. It has a couple moments of like cool animation for like when people die. It is like a slasher film in space, but it was really boring. And I think I just wrote that was I think it. I think that's all I wrote, pretty much. It's not good. It's not good. I think at this point I was going crazy because I had like seen so many space girl mecha or space girl horror type. It all starts to flow together, right? There's this mixture of like random genre tags. I was starting to hallucinate. I was like, please, one of these be good. Please, one of these be good. And it just wasn't happening. I don't even know if this one ever came to the States or anything like that. I have no idea. But it's been long forgotten. Probably for good reason. Dal Power X Bakuhatsu, which I think is this one. Which is another... They're all the same. They're all the same. This one is just schoolgirl. Actually, I guess a funny way of putting this is just Gunbuster before. This is sourceless Gunbuster. Sourceless fucking Gunbuster. Because it is like the same as the Earth Defense one, but it's like schoolgirl and mecha. Literally schoolgirl mecha space. It's a bit more tongue-in-cheek, I guess. But like, God fucking... I guess some wrestle moves, which that was, I guess, a little bit... But, oh my God. It's so middle of the road. Maybe I'm putting it lower because I was really not... It is effectively something like, what if Gunbuster were bad? It has the same kind of parody aspects of like databasing like otaku trends, but it just doesn't have the same energy. I don't know if I got much more to say about it than that, to be honest. I think that's probably enough. I did not care for it. But there's so many of them. There's so many of them. Okay, and then there's this one as well, which is a girl mecha space again. What was this one called? I think this one was slightly better than some of them, but it was still all the same. Twinkle Heart. This one is like girl mecha space, but then like there's some living dolls. Not even dolls, I guess like teddy bears. But girl mecha space, in space, different planet, stuff happen, castle sci-fi intersection between the two. They're like space bounty hunter, maybe space bounty hunter girl trio, something. I mean, they had nice designs. I think that's the thing I could say about it. What else did I write here? Serviceable, cute design, but it's girl mecha space, but bounty hunters, which is another one of them. I don't think it's going to stand out in the thing. It's slightly better than some of these others, but it all starts to blend together when you watch them all. And I was like, at that point, I was just like, it never ends. It never ends. Oh my god! Thank God. We're going to talk about something good. We're going to talk about something good for a moment. I mean, I think Moe had probably been established by that point, but I mean, the design's quite nice. They are quite Moe-esque, very soft, but like, yeah, I wish they were something better. Thank God. B tier. This one, Barry something something. This is the motorcycle, another motorcycle. This is the thing I was saying. This is the other enthusiast motorcycle man, and it's from the Initial D guy. Before he was the Initial D guy, this is his first manga. It is like Initial D, but motorcycles. Initial D, motorcycles. So you're kind of already like, you might already have a picture in your head like, oh, okay. And it handles its women about as good as Initial D does. This man does not write women very well. It's very up and down. Initial C, sure, but you know what? What this one does have is that at very least, like the core characterization of the women is fine. I think there's two of them and they kind of have distinct personalities, though like what they do with them is a bit lacking. But like it's mainly 2 episodes, and when it's really heightened is in the actual motorcycle animation. This is some of the best motorcycle action like animation out there, legitimately. And it does it in a kind of interesting way. Like it really goes into that sort of like perspective animation on motorcycle. Like it goes for the first person, sometimes like riding the motorcycle through the track, like going around it, and there's so much of that, and it's really impressive, and it's Pero at their finest, where I was like, fuck man, they really went hard on that. And there's some tragedy in there and some artsy shit, and I think there were parts where I was a bit like, okay, they're doing the whole gang fucking messing with harassing women shit again, which is like the 3rd or 4th time I've seen it this year. That bit was a bit like, I don't know about this part's a bit trite, but like the rest of it, when it actually focuses on the racing, I was like, actually this is pretty good. When it's about the character sort of like rivalry and on the track, like on the like going around the track and like building that, I was like, I could see this being something. And these 2 episodes were pretty solid. And like I said, the animation for the actual motorcycle stuff was like, this is really excellent. This is like probably some of the best you're going to see from the OVA era. Like at this point, I think the only other I could think of well, there is another on this list that we'll get to in a bit. But beforehand, it would probably be Megazone, the original Megazone, which has some fun little cuts, but these ones are probably much better in terms of OVAs. I mean, there's definitely a lot of interesting motorcycle animation from this period, if that would be from the Madhouse movie that came out around this time. I've forgotten the name of it, but I made a video about it once. I think it came out in 86. But that had a very good final motorcycle scene, like in pencil animation. And of course, you've got Akira, and then you've got other stories. There's a lot of motorcycle animation around this period, but I think this one had some really. This is like track motorcycle animation, I think. And there was some like street racing, I guess. Well, I guess it's like up. It's like, again, it's the same. It's interesting because I was looking at the path he was going. I was like, I think I know that path. That's one of the ones from. It's one of the tracks from Initial D, one of the fucking Sega Initial D like tracks. But they were like riding up the sort of like bendy roads on the motorcycle. But I thought, yeah, when it's riding, it's real good. And I think it came together ultimately. Some parts not as good as others, but I like that sort of early Initial D stuff. So I think it worked out. I liked it. It impressed me more than it didn't in the end. Okay, maybe we get to do some nice ones now. Let's do Urban Square. This one's also pretty interesting because it's a little bit different. This is basically the equivalent of an OVA Hong Kong action movie, but it's kind of like a crime drama too. It's like a detective-y crime drama a little bit. Like there's a bit of a mystery going on. There's some like underground crime stuff, but it's mainly the sort of like Hong Kong. This is basically like what if anime Jackie Chan film kind of deal. That's how I'd look at it. Or like, it's somewhere between Jackie Chan and like fuck, what's it called? City Hunter. But this one was good. This is written by Ito, Kazunori Ito of Mamoru Oshii fame, and his wife did the character designs, and it was done through Bandai Viz, I think. Animation's pretty alright. There's some nice little action sequences, which are again a very Hong Kong action. It sort of plays, or if you like Pat Labor, and you were like, what if Pat Labor was kind of like a Hong Kong action thing instead of like Pat Labor? That's kind of the vibe. Police Story, yeah, kind of like a police story. A little bit like that. Like the main guy's kind of a nobody. He's not like a police officer, but he gets thrown into this sort of like story. And it's kind of funny in that way. Like I think he fights some guy in his apartment. He's kind of clumsy, but very capable. That's why he almost feels like a Jackie Chan. Because he's like literally like climbing up buildings. He's jumping off buildings. He's getting into fights, even though he doesn't know how to fight. But he's getting into he's doing a lot of like crazy shit. Like he's jumping on helicopters and stuff. But he's like, there's a kind of grounding to it. Like he obviously doesn't really know how to fight, but he knows how to like bullshit his way through things and scrap. So he gets into some goofy situations. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't know if I'll say too much more than that. The biggest, saddest thing about it is that I think it's really only came out on VHS. I think it sold so poorly they've never released it again since the VHS era, which is a shame because it's a nice little story. It is. It's a bit of fun, nice Ito scripts, nice character designs, some good little action scenes, and it's cute. That's all you can really wish for. Like I said, it's better than most of this stuff. I'd say it's a light B. It's a bit of fun. I think that's what I've said here. Yeah, pretty much. Right, what do we have here then? Is this Sammy? Did I write anything about Sammy? I might not have even wrote anything about Sammy because I just wrote D. Sammy is another girl. This one is girl space mecha sci-fi but fantasy too. It's both. It's an original. It has no structure and story. This girl gets transformed into a different world after getting chased at her school, if I remember right, by bikers, which was a bit like, where the fuck did that come from? And then she transforms into this different world. Starts off like Alice in Wonderland, then turns into like sci-fi bikini battle shit at the end a little bit later. It's like two concepts that kind of like clash together, but it's very aimless, very run of the mill. It's like all these others. Again, it starts to blend together after a while, and I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. Nice cover though. I like the poster, which is why it probably disappointed because I was like, that's quite a nice poster. And then I was like, oh, that bit of the movie doesn't even exist really. That's like 5 minutes of the movie, and it just fucking this is just the embers of random concepts from the era. Not good. A little batshit. At least it's a bit batshit though. Like it does sort of keep you guessing. Which one? Sammy? Are we talking about Sammy? Super dimensional romantic Sammy? Or is it the one beforehand which I liked, which is Urban Square? Urban Square is in the top of B, second on the B. If you can see my mouse, it's this one. That's Urban Square. Barry Dentsu or something like that. It's that one. That's the initial D. Motorcycle one. We've got Guyver and Violence Jack. Another one. Let's talk about another one that's kind of good. I didn't think it would be good, but it's kind of good. It won me over. Armon Saga. I will say, this is very paint by numbers. This is what you'd expect. It is not sci-fi girl mecha. It is fantasy girl dragon. I guess there's a dragon at some point. This is D&D. It's a D&D campaign. It's very sword and sorcery, right? It's very of that era. But I guess the difference is it's kind of like Amano designs. So you got Amano designs, they're nice. This dude, the main dude, he's kind of like a Vampire D type. He's got aura. He does have aura. I will give him that. He does have aura. At the end, he exuded a lot of aura in his final moments. I was like, damn. He made a decision I didn't actually expect him to make. But the nice thing about Armon Saga, there's some really... Most of the time it looks okay and fine. But there are actually some really interesting cuts in there. Some really, really good animation cuts towards the end, especially. Some really interesting stuff goes on there. And I was like, oh, shit. I wasn't expecting that. There's some, like... What's nice about Armor Saga is it will set up a premise where I'm like, this is what I expect to happen. This is usually what happens. And then it doesn't do it. Like, it begins, I'm like, oh, okay, this is guy, big brutish guy. And it's like... Oh, he's dark skinned. Of course, he's fucking dark skinned. Of course, they're going to make it very violent or something stupid like that. and he's just gonna be like a random thug, like fucking the one from that other OVA I watched. But no, he actually becomes an ally, and he becomes quite like they become quite loyal by the end. And it's like, oh, actually, I didn't expect him to stay around because like I thought this was just like a one-off time. Like this guy kind of reminds me of Blackbeard. Maybe he's played by Blackbeard, his voice actor. He's a lot more loyal than Blackbeard. I'll say that much. But yeah, it starts off with like a really random act of violence in a bar, but then they become, eventually become kind of like allies and almost become like team members. And it's a bit like, oh, okay. I thought this would be like a throwaway character, but no, actually, you did something with him. That's nice. And there are just like little moments like that where it sets you up and you go like, oh, of course it's going to be this, and then it doesn't do that. And it's even if in those moments where it doesn't matter too much, it's like, well, of course it's going to be that the main character is going to be the one with the mask on right now, who's like doing the thing that you think he's, and it's like, oh, it actually isn't him. And it's like, oh, okay. But it just sets stuff up like that, where there's enough little twists and turns. It's very tried and true, but it's presented well enough, has enough twists, has enough nice cuts for me to be like, yeah, actually, I like that. I think that actually went pretty well. I think that wasn't too bad. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It has a Dinubalugan moment. It has this sort of dragon in the water kind of moments. It has the sort of princess. It has some interesting imagery in terms of it's like the walking city. I think it's on the back of a big turtle. It was on the back of. There's some interesting stuff there in terms of visuals. Definitely like some visual ideas of fun. And it's competent. It's definitely competent. Like I said, there's moments where the animation really shines, but the rest of the time it's generally competent. It's fine. But yeah, I think it came across expected. I mean, maybe in comparison to everything else I saw, I was like, oh, okay, that was something. Majo. Majo is this one. Nice cover. Really nice cover. Yeah, probably about there. Yeah. This one, sci-fi girl, but it's a little bit different. It's like salary work. This one it almost has something to say. It has some premises where I'm like, this is it's trying to do something. It's a little bit weird, a little bit out there. It's like, you ever say Yatsura, like magical girlfriend appears from different universe, something, but then she's fractured in time, disappears. There's some weird oddities to it, especially in how it deals with that concept, magical sci-fi realism. I don't know what's going on there, but it fucks around with it a bit. It fucks around with some stuff. His boss is like a weird homosexual gangster. I don't know, like biker. Some strange stuff there. Some weird ideas and concepts. Some interesting visuals though. I honestly don't know if I wrote much about this one, but I think I might have said it's like avant-garde hentai, but it's not quite to hentai. Like artsy, a little too artsy to be hentai, and not enough fucking to be hentai, but it's on the edge. But fine, maybe it's trying to say something there. Maybe there's something it's trying to say about otaku 2D relationships, but I feel like the one we did last year did that better. The one in the wind with the poster that was live, that definitely did that sort of stuff better. Nice poster though, and like I'll give it some interesting ideas. I don't think I execute them well enough, but it's pretty out there at least. I can say that much. Takahashi one-off from Pero. Yeah, Maris the Chogo. This one goes here, if not here. I think it's oh no, don't do that. It's up there. This one is Space Girl Mecha Sci-Fi, if you would believe it. And if you can believe it, it's Girl Mecha Sci-Fi again. But it's done right. The opening for this is really great, and I think the characterization is really nice. I have seen this premise many times now. Poor ass bounty hunter back on their bad luck and has sidekick character who is animal. But it's done well. It's done well. I've gone through so many years at this point. We're 3 years in now. I've seen this premise done, and every time I'm like, yeah, I like this premise, but like it's failed execution. Every time I'm like, it could be better. And I'm like, this time I'm like, finally, they got it down. They got it down. Maris is interesting in that it's kind of a Superman story, but like with a twist. And that like they've been sent from a planet where everyone on it is like too strong, and they can't regulate their strength, which is why she has like the metal cords around her, because she doesn't, she breaks everything and then she has to pay for it. So like that's why she's a very poor bounty hunter, because her skills were that of she could only either be a professional wrestler or a bounty hunter, but she always seems to be in the red because not only her parents fucking up and then she's having to bail them out money wise, but she's constantly fucking up and then having to bail out, breaking her spaceship, having to pay for another one. She's kind of entrapped in like a sort of like vicious circle by the bounty hunting thing, where it feels like they've stuck her intentionally in situations where she'll fuck up and can never get out of the debt loop. So that's kind of an interesting way of doing it. And there's a guy who's like Shah. He's been kidnapped. He's like a rich, and her whole premise of the thing is like, if I can marry this fucker, I'm free. But it doesn't quite work out that way. It kind of drags a bit in the middle, if I remember right. But I like Maris as a character, and I was like, damn, I wish I could have saw more of this actually, because it was a lot of fun seeing her fuck around and beat up fuckers who are getting in her way. One guy she scared so much that he pissed everywhere, and he wouldn't stop pissing, and she punched him in the sky, and he was like a fucking piss trail, and she beat him in the sky. She's like, fucking gross. But like, it's an interesting mix of sci-fi adventure and sort of poverty. I think it balances those two worlds quite well. I was like, I guess Spider-Man would be a better sin than Superman. It's that kind of Spider-Man balance between like life woes, being this hero, or in this situation, a bounty hunter, someone who's doing this sort of quests, but also wanting more from life. It's this interesting combo of stuff there. I liked it. I think it was really fun. I would have liked to see more. I do think it's something that could have been like a whole television show, definitely. I don't know if they ever did any more than that. It might be one of those one-offs. But, because it's part of the Rumiko World series. I don't actually know if they did anything more than like a single couple issues. Because I think most of those are just like one-off story like ideas. This one I don't remember though. But yeah, it was fun. Like I said, finally one of these that actually works. I was like, damn, you can make this work. Speaking of making this work, kind of, let's talk a little bit about Cool Cool Bye. What a fucking title. This one works in a similar situation. This is kind of also... This is Birth Call. That's what I can call it. Sci-fi mecha girl is there. I guess pixie girl in this situation, because it's like foreign alien world, does all the otaku Canada stuff, but it's not Canada. It's the character designer from Adeon, and it's their second time. So Greed, we did Greed last year. I thought Greed was very interesting, but it is also that birth core, but it was kind of just a bit all over the place in a kind of interesting way, but not in a way that I would recommend it to people. It's more of a fascinating oddity in its that mix of like science fiction and fantasy and sort of like stories that kind of like completely fall apart and devolve in that sort of Adeon 2001 kind of way, Devilman. But this is kind of like that, but with a bit more structure. A bit more, it's not a perfect story, but the animation cuts are fine. The designs are nice, and they do some like big Horus-esque stone warrior, but big mecha fights, and it all comes together enough where I'm like, yeah, right, okay. This is a bit more, it's more consistent than Greed. Maybe it's less interesting because of that, but like, if you're going to do a birth style story, OVA, I'm like, you could do worse. And oh yeah, Krillin's voice actor, I guess Luffy's voice actor, and Goku's voice actor playing the main two. And I think this is before they really started. So that was an interesting double there, as you got Krillin and Goku, or Luffy and Goku's voice actors like sort of interacting in this sort of sci-fi post-apocalyptic world mixture, birth core world where they've got to do some adventuring and save the world or something, fight giant creatures. Maimi Tanaka. I mean, where is she not? She's also in Castle in the Sky, right? But it was decent. I think it does the job. So I'll take it that way. It's you do worse. Call Me Tonight. All right, let's talk about this one. I'm probably putting that somewhere in here. Call Me Tonight is actually unorthodox, though it's also very set in its genre. Pink noise. That sounds perfect for this because it's very Pink film-esque. I could totally get that. I think that there's an interesting premise here, but it feels like it fell apart in the second half for me. That's my part about it, where like it's doing the monster ultra violence kind of stuff, and it's like meets sex worker who's oddly curious about his ability, where I think guy gets horny, turns into monstrous creature, and he's trying to figure out what the deal with that is. And like as a premise, I was like, okay, this definitely feels like a B movie from like the 80s, where like, I was like, I could totally see this being like a live action thing. It doesn't go anywhere. That's the problem I had with it. It's like it just doesn't. It has to create a conflict that felt like it doesn't need to exist for the sake of it, and then it just kind of ends at one point. I don't know. It's just a bit like you got a premise here. There's definitely some fun to be had here. I think the character interactions definitely there's definitely something building here. And I was just like, it didn't stick the landing. That last bit, I'm just like, this last bit's not very good. But I do feel like there's something here. There is something here. This feels like a movie that already exists. That's probably better. That does this premise and figured it out. But I just can't think of what the movie would be called. But you could do worse. I think is what I said. The first half, I do think is very fun. I do think the interaction between it almost feels like it could be Fujimoto. This is actually a perfect Fujimoto metaphor. Now I think about it, this is pretty much what he does. Fujimoto would make a banger version of Call Me Tonight. His version would be so fucking good because it's basically that. I think that's what I liked about it. Is it did have that kind of Denji sort of bit about it. It did have that sort of feeling of like this kind of like goober guy. He's got these powers, doesn't have to do with them, and there's this girl who's kind of curious about it. I don't know what her interests are. They might be a little fucked up, but like they kind of start building a bond together in like an unorthodox way because they're both kind of like outcast in a way. And that was nice seeing that part. Fujimoto would fucking make this bang. Fujimoto needs to do this. He needs to make this premise. He would do it so fucking well. Though if he did it, it probably would be sad and I would cry because it probably wouldn't end very nicely. But yeah, that's what I'm saying here is Fujimoto needs to make a remake, Call Me Tonight, the manga. Do it, Fujimoto. Do it. Make it good. This premise is up your alley. I know it is. They even have a scene where they go to the cinema together and it's like the movie gets horny and he turns into like a monster in the cinema and it's like, that would totally be perfect body for Fujimoto. Fujimoto would totally do a scene like that. So yeah, I like the premise. I just wish it was a bit better. I wish it was a bit better. Better executed, maybe be the word. Or a bit more, just a bit more. I feel like, because when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is probably like a manga, right? And that's why this is kind of ended so quickly, because it's probably summarizing some plot point about tension, and it's just thrown at the end because it's got to like have a climax. But no, I was like, oh, it's an original. Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, what the fuck do they do? Sleeping at the wheel. I think there's a bit at the end, yeah, where it felt like it was setting itself up for a sequel, but they never got one. Because I think he finds a way to fix the power or something. I think that's an idea. It's like he learns to control it or something, and it goes away. But I don't know. The second half feels like it went very muddled. Humanoid, piece of shit. I'm sad to say that because I think this is one of the last Kaname productions. The Canada production house. And I was watching. I was like, oh, this could be good. It's from the Canada production house plus Unicorn. I was like, this potentially there could be an interesting little OVA. And I watched. I was like, oh, this is boring as fuck, and it sucks. Never mind. I think I kind of see what they were trying to do. Maybe Ben Hur bit or something with almost like pod racing. It's like loosely sci-fi Deus Ex Machina type deal, where it's like, what is a robot to be human? But it's just really boring, and the animation's not very good. And like there's a couple bits, but I was like, oh, this isn't very good. Damn, feels bad, man. I'm sorry Canada had to go out that way because I was like, you're a great studio, but I guess to be fair, they did do that other. I think there's another thing they brought out in '86, which is a movie, seems to be much better, which is Windaria. So I guess they did at least go out with something that's better than fucking Humanoid. Okay. Wannabes. This one goes somewhere in here. Maybe here. This one is weird because it is also kind of girls sci-fi horror monster. So it's kind of like a weird, but it's supposed to be about wrestling. It's so when I heard the premise, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Like, because we've had a bit of girl wrestling, like Maris the Chogo, that has a bit of like it talks about the past where she was a professional wrestler and she was getting kind of fucked over, and she was stuck in the sort of lower rings, and they have like a sort of way of like doing stuff with that storyline. This is like again wannabe wrestlers, like female wrestlers who are coming in and they want to like get the cup, become the top ones. It is a very dirty pair, but it's like wrestlers. But I like that premise, but then it has to. The unfortunate part is that I felt like no, this premise could probably make the OVA. You don't need to do anything more than like they fucked up your friends. You're gonna train and try and become the best wrestlers against these, and then maybe there's some other twist there, but like you don't need much more than that. But then it's like experimental things we're gonna do to you, and then you'll become superhuman. And also Resident Evil, 10 years before Resident Evil, creature monster the X. It's like the monster at the end of Resident Evil 1. Maybe it was inspired by this OVA. But like it really out of pocket, because I was like, I thought this was about wrestling. I mean, we get some of the sci-fi shit. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I thought we were doing wrestling in the ring, and it's like suddenly like, no, we need to go to the science lab and fight a bunch of people, and then there's a monster gross thing we gotta stop. And I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? I thought this is about wrestling. And it's like, no. We still need to do girl sci-fi and possible horror monster shit first. And I was like, oh, okay. Probably would have been better without this, actually. I mean, I guess it makes it a little batshit, a little different to have those elements. It didn't feel they were necessary, but like, they were there. They were there. But I thought the characters was fun. I thought the premise was nice. Like, you don't really get many female wrestling sort of anime stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. A little unconventional, but it still has to fit in that mold. So it starts bringing them back, and I think that holds it back a little. Even if they just kept it to like experimental shit they're doing to the girls, and that was it, and it's just like, okay, and it's like they can kind of do something like that. But then it had to throw in like the weird fucking Resident Evil monster, which is just like so out of pocket. But yeah, I thought it was. Did I write anything? Did I write anything particular on it? Let me double check if I wrote anything else in my notes here. What did I write? Oh, I didn't think I even wrote very much. Okay, never mind. Wasting my time looking up then. I think it's fun. It's just a little bit all over the place, but I think it's fun. Okay, California Crisis. I've done a video about this in the past. I haven't watched it too recently, but I've seen it a couple of times, obviously. I think it probably ends up somewhere in the sea. Somewhere in here. This is Nishikubo, and I think knowing more about Nishikubo's tastes, I kind of get where it's coming from. It's always been a bit of a mix for California, where it's like, I think there's good, interesting art direction, which definitely up Nishikuba's direction. Good music. Premise is a bit all over the place. It has a kind of like slice of life element, which is it can be appealing. Sort of, it has an atmosphere about it, but the story is like nothing. It's sci-fi girl again. It's sci-fi girl, sci-fi mecha girl stuff again, and it never got to do its sequel. I imagine which might have extended what the premise is actually supposed to be about. But it has some style to it. It has a different location, being in California. It has style. It has unique visuals. It has the good music. So it's a good vibe piece. I think that's really all I can say about it. It's a good vibe piece. I mean, yeah, they're supposed to be city pop, sort of like what the word would be at the time. It's very of its era, like the '80s sort of clean aesthetic approach at that time. So it has a particular look to it, which I can appreciate. It's too bad it never was on anything past Laserdisc. But there's some nice backgrounds too. It's very, very that California AOR design. But yeah, it's unorthodox, kind of similar to what Nishikoba had done in the past, and it has that similar sort of situations with his work in the past, where some interesting premises in them, but they're usually quite meandering, and they really focus on that sort of like music and sort of character relations, malaise stuff. Right, Outlander, is that what this is called? Let me just do it from memory. Outlanders is like probably between these 2 points. Maybe it's here. The premise is kind of like the first Urusei Yatsura movie, and it's very Urusei Yatsura, but it's unwilling husband save universe if you marry my daughter. I was like, this premise seems like it would be. I think it's actually a Go Nagai manga. I didn't actually get the guy vibes too much in this one, but I was just like, man, if Takahashi wrote this, it would be better. That was my thought at the time. I was like, if it was a Takahashi story, she'd probably figure this out better. Because I mean, there's a premise there where you could do something with it. I just didn't think they were particularly the best executed. I mean, it could look pretty at times. I'll give it that much. The character designs are nice, some nice little bits of animation, but it was a little bit unfocused, I think. Yeah. I was a little disappointed because I saw the poster and I was like, that's a nice poster, actually. That looks very enticing. When I watched it, I was like, oh man. I was hoping it'd be better. I was hoping it'd be on the Marish to Choga like level, but it wasn't. I know what Takahashi's good at. And since we've got the Chogo already on it, I was like, I think she could write this. I think she could write this kind of premise better because it's really up her alley. Because she does that. That's her bread and butter. It was not the guy enough for me for it to be like that kind of insane batshit stuff. That wasn't there. I feel like this would suit her more, but she kind of has done this before. Anyway, it's special time now. We've got only a few left. All right, so let's get over the MD here. MD probably MD is whatever. It is sci-fi. I don't even think is there even a girl? I guess there's a girl at one point. It is just sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, whatever. I don't find it particularly offensive. It's just paint by the numbers. Like, oh, okay. Yep. This is what Americans think OVAs are. I can see why. This is it, isn't it? It's just some military bullshit. Some stuff's happening. Fights, explosions, ultra violence. Probably a sliver of like sexual tension at one point, maybe. And things explode. Yeah, okay. Some cool animation cuts, but I found it kind of inoffensive. It's just like, oh, okay. I've seen worse. I've seen better. Maybe actually some of these are actually worse than that because it wasn't really offending me. So maybe it's more like around here. Maybe it's like somewhere in here, you know, like there maybe. Whereas like it's very whatever, but like I don't have any energy. Maybe at this point I'm so numb to it though because I've seen so many of these. Whereas it's like, oh okay, at least the guy's a bit goofy. I was like, oh, at least the guy's he's fucking stupidly goofy or something. Right, what should we talk about next? You know what? We'll do Keys. How do I say it? It's Wounded Man in in English. Now this one, I will start here. We'll talk about this one. This one's really interesting to me because this is Koike. This is Koike of Lone Wolf and Cub fame, and I've been watching the Lone Wolf and Cub films. And I've realized that Koike never really changed his style because people think like people talk about Lone Wolf and Cub as like a classic manga, but it is still Koike in that like maybe the premise people just accept it within the premise of the book. But Koike is an insane man. I think this is what we. I mean the Igami art in the comic looks pretty good, but the OVA obviously is a bit more limited. Koike is an insane man. He writes stories about insane people that are all crazy. That is kind of his thing, and that's not even that different in Lone Wolf and Cub. Like maybe you could argue that like it makes sense within the context, but like everyone is fucking crazy in his stories. Like they're all like fucking deranged. And Wounded Man is a particular highlight of that, where like the first episode was really garish, and it was a bit hard for me to watch. I was a bit like, ugh. But then I kept watching it, and I was like, oh. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely Koike. Where it's like, this got fucking insane. This started devolving into pure crazy bullshit. And it just kept going. And I was, into episode 5, I think episode 5 kind of lost me. But like, there are some twists in episode 5 where I was like, that's fucking crazy. Because like, this goes from like a reporter going to a gold mine for a story. And then it becomes a story about a secret pornography institution that makes secret pornography blackmail material of celebrities and sports people. And if you don't do what they say, they will kill your loved ones and frame you for murder and put you in prison. And then it became a story of vengeance about that story. And there's like 3 lovers who get killed in the process of this, and they all die the same way. And shit just gets fucking crazy, and these people are insane, and it's very inappropriate, and it just keeps getting crazier. And I don't know what to say about it. It's fucking wild. And I was like, what I really got out of this is I would like to read the original because this OVA just can't really capture what I imagine this years and years long story of fucking insanity, and I guarantee you Kojima has read this. There is no way I cannot believe Kojima has not read this. Because I was like, yeah. And the thing with Koike is Koike taught a generation of mangaka. Like, Baki is the natural progression of the Koike style of manga writing. Baki's fucking bullshit craziness, that is pure Koike. Koike just writes fucking absurd insanity. There is a scene in this situation where they bring out, I guess she handles boats or something. I don't even remember what her like job was, but there was this, what was her, I can't remember her name. She was just like this lady they brought in, and she comes into the story. She has a premise, and they're paying her to do something, and she sees all the gold, and she falls to her knees and pisses her pants, and she's like, gold! And then she's like, I'm gonna fuck the Wounded Man. I'm gonna do it. I'm fucking this guy. But then he's got a girlfriend right next. It's just fucking crazy. These characters are insane. And it just gets wilder. And that's the Koike thing. It's just like, I guess it's never changed. But like, Wounded Man is a particular one where he just gets really fucking crazy with it. And it's not, it's crazy in a different way to like Madball. Madball is like almost parody crazy, where it's like, it's kind of a joke, but Wounded Man sort of holds on its conspiracy level, like it's like a Kojima plot. That's where it really it's quite self-serious. Where Madball doesn't feel like it is self-serious in the same way, because it's like, I don't know if you can be self-serious when you have like a bunch of grenade pins in your pubic hair and you're throwing them away. Like, I don't think you can be self-serious, but like Wounded Man is deadly serious. It's deadly self-serious. And it's fucking insane. And Wounded Man's a terrible guy. He's fucking awful. He's like a psycho. And he's the protagonist, but then he wasn't the protagonist. In the first episode, the protagonist was the journalist. But then things changed. I mean, it's certainly transgressive. I mean, it's grindhouse. It's very exploitation grindhouse conspiracy movie. I mean, I've seen Madball. It'd probably be like an A tier or something. Madball's great. I mean, Madball's great. Like, Mad Girl is much better than Wounded Man fails because I feel like the execution of the animation department isn't up to the task. Like, there isn't really a lot they can do with Wounded Man. Like, I think they can show a premise which is fucking crazy, but their animation cuts are whatever, and I think they don't have the resources to sell the fucking insanity which this is, because there's just so much crazy shit in Wounded Man. It's hard to really express. Like, at one point they start fighting veterans from World War II. Bear in mind this is set like in post-Vietnam, so they're all like 60, and there's just like an army of like Santa Claus like veterans that become the enemy to the Wounded Man. It's fucking crazy. But so like, to me, the Wounded Man is more interesting than most of these works, even though like it kind of disgusts me in some ways, but also makes me curious. It's like this weird mixture of like, I don't even know if I could recommend it to most people because it's so fucking garish. But like, it probably could be at the bottom of C. It depends on how many episodes. I think the first 4 episodes are probably the story. I think episode 5 falls apart because it literally feels like it has this massive time skip, and it's just like, what the fuck just happened? And it feels like, oh, I have to read the manga to understand, right? Because they didn't have enough time to tell this part of the story, so they just did a flash forward to be like, and this is where it ends. And it's like, oh, well, what happened in between those points? Because that would be the interesting part to me. But I digress. It's fucking wild, and it's just koi cake. I mean, that's the thing about koi cake shit is fucking crazy, and I think Lone Wolf and Cub is really no different. There's a scene in Lone Wolf and Cub where I was like, this is giving me I feel like this is giving me Boss Baby vibes. Actually, it's like, no, it's giving me Wounded Man vibes. It's like, even though it's the opposite way around, where it's like there's a scene in Lone Wolf and Cub where the samurai is like, there's a prostitute in this bathhouse, and it's run by these like horrible like thugs, and they're like trying to force the prostitute into having like, you know, coitus in front of everyone to humiliate them. And if they don't, they're gonna kill her. And she's like, I'd rather die than like fuck one of you thugs. And then the samurai's like, okay, I'll have sex with her in front of everyone. He's like, I don't give a fuck. And then he just does, and it's just in front of everyone. And it's just like, okay, it's like, this is such a koike scene, where it's just like, I don't care. I'll do it. I'll remove my pride to save this prostitute for no other reason than like I can, I suppose, just for the honor of it. And then that happens, and the movie is quite artsy about it and how it presents it. I imagine this comic is maybe not as artsy in its presentation of it. But then like afterwards, he's like, yeah, I guess it's time to go soon. So then he just like starts to go, and then they pick a fight with him, and he just fucking kills all of them. Just fucking murders every single one of the thugs. In like a bloody display. He just like fucking mows through them. He's literally like, he's just like on the way out, basically. It's like, he's like, I'm gonna leave, and then one of the guys is like, hey, I'm gonna pick a fight with you. And obviously the samurai's like, you probably shouldn't do that. And he's like, I'm gonna throw that, and he just like kills him instantly. And then he's like, all right, it's on. And then he just fucking murders every single one of them. And there's like 30 or 40 of them. He's just fucking all of them. Bam, 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 bam. And they're gone. It's pretty great. But like, he's just, it's such a koike thing to him. He's just so nonchalant about it, and that like, he's like, well, I'm here for the spa, and I don't care about these guys trying to humiliate me because they can't really get one up on me. I am a bastion of hell. out for revenge, and like these people are just ants on my path. And when they got into a situation where they were causing him trouble, and he had to move on, he was like, I'm just killing all of them, every single one of them. And then there's like the last guy left who's like, I know who you are. And I say it. And he's just like, nah, done, no mercy. So yeah, Koike's fucking crazy. He's fucking crazy. But I guess it's an endearing thing to see. And he did teach a generation. You know who else he taught? Takahashi. Takahashi was a disciple at his manga studio. So he taught the Urusei Yatsura mangaka how to write manga. I don't know if I see the resemblance, but some of the disciples, it's a bit more obvious than others. Like he taught some I wouldn't know in a million years, like Yuji Horii of Dragon Quest fame was a member at this special school. And then there was Devil May Cry's writer was one, which I was like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. And then there's people like the writer of Apocalypse Zero, and I'm like, yeah, of course that makes sense. And then like people like the writer of Baki, where like, of course, that's like one-on-one. Of course, those people were taught by each other. No, I think calling him the Tarantino is actually like spitting in his face, because I think Koike is Tarantino rips Koike. That's what happens. Tarantino wishes he was Koike. He does not have the true like third eye crazy bullshit style. Tarantino can only copy the style of insanity because he loves Lady Snowblood. He loves Wolf and Cub and shit like that. Like Tarantino worships Koike. He licks at his feet. He could not compare to Koike. I don't know if Baki inspired Fight Club. I do not think the writer of Fight Club was reading Baki, if I'm honest. Tarantino is just a bottom feeder for Koike. Anyway, I should probably get back to the list. We'll do Megazone 23-2. I don't really know what to put this one because I've watched it in the past and I was rewatching some stuff earlier. I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, I definitely prefer the first part and like this, but like the second part definitely has a lot of good like animation cuts. But I feel like the story and the characterization is a lot weaker, and the change is quite dramatic. And I think the first one had problems too. I don't know. Like, it's still a lot better than a lot of this stuff though. So like, it just on the premise alone, it has to be somewhere like here or here. Maybe it's like at the bottom of the sea. It's got to be somewhere around here in the sea area. Maybe the bottom of C, C minus. I don't know. It's somewhere there. Like maybe it's D. It's better. It's definitely better made than like pretty much all this stuff in D. Like like it has a lot of very articulate animation cuts, and you know it comes together as like it's functional and stuff. Like it definitely is a step above them. I don't know if it's really on the first movie's level, but. And it sort of turns into noise after a while. I guess it's just like, you know, trying to... I don't know. I feel very... I feel very mixed on it, I suppose. But like, it's definitely more competent than anything in that D tier. And it's probably better made than like Wounded Man. It's just Wounded Man has like that absurdity element. So like it probably... Maybe I should at least give it the credit to be a past Wounded Man, but like, I'm just not very feeling it. I think that's the thing. I'm just not very feeling it too much. But like, it's definitely better than all that shit in D&E. In fact, some of the stuff in D&E should probably be lower. Maybe it should be like down here or something. Like, what's that one? That one probably should be an E somewhere. Like, if I just balance this out a bit, so let's put a couple of these in E. Yeah, that's a bit more balanced. Because, like, a lot of that stuff at the bottom is just like, oh my god. But yeah, Megazone has, like, some cool animation cuts, and it's, like, you know, it's got very talented people working on it. And, like, it's still Megazone, I suppose. Even if it's a bit different. And It's like bike enthusiasm plus sci-fi mecha girl again. Well, Tarantino took a lot from Lady Snowblade to make Kill Bill, and that's Koike. It's like there's so much of Snowblood in like Kill Bill. It's kind of insane. That's what I'm saying. Like he's a bottom feeder. He's like he can see these ideas, but he can't make them himself in the same way. I suppose Kill Bill has his own right at this point, but like I don't know. I kind of feel like Tarantino. He really pisses me off. I've liked a lot of his films, but like he's so fucking. He's such a scumbag. Mm, what a fucking loser. I don't know. Now we're to the final one. The final one of the night. Shonen Bombers. Or Bonbonsai. Bonbonsai? I forget how they call it the Japanese style. This is the best by far the GOAT. The GOAT. The GOAT. That's all I can say. The GOAT. Like, in terms of the biking enthusiast, like OVAs, like, can you really do much better? I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I I mean, from what I understand, this is one of the popularizers of the biking sort of delinquent era in this era. It was very popular as a manga. I think the video series did very well. There was 12 episodes. Now it's a little hard to recommend people to watch because it's not. I don't think it's ever been released in English. I think there are fan versions of it, but I don't think it's ever been officially released. So it's not very well known, and each episode is 50 minutes long. So there's like 12 episodes, and then there's some spin-offs, and every one of them is 50 minutes long. So it's like it's a bit of an investment, but like it's really good. Like beautiful backgrounds. It's Toei Animation doing it. I mean, it feels like the art style changes every episode, but it's probably because I think the manga's been running so long. So I think it just bounces around the story. But like, it's a fun story about bikers hanging out, being young. And each story, I think the story's best when it's talking about like interpersonal friendships and sort of a lot of the episodes focus on different characters and like gives you a little piece of their story, and that can be fun because it does some characters who are like outside of the main cast sometimes, and I really like those ones. And it's just a good time. Great music. It is the only one to say it is undefeated. Like Shonen is definitely undefeated. Like there's nothing that can compare to it this year. Like I said, in my best recommendations, if I'm talking about my recommendations, like I'm like these are my recommendations. I usually go BA, BAS. They're like my major recommendations for those years. And there's only five out of 30 that I was included, or 29 here I think it is. Technicals. There are more OVAs that came out that year, but I have a rule set that I usually bring up. And these are the ones that fit the rule set of like how I could do the series. So like, most of the other ones, if there are any more, a lot of them might be continuations of an anime TV series, or they might be recaps. Like those things are not covered here. And there's a couple of them which didn't come out that year, which were included in the year tier lists, or the year databases. So I removed those. But yeah, it is on a tier of its own. It's a fantastic series, a lot of fun to watch. Very competent. Continues with some great animation cuts from time to time. Some pretty nice motorcycle animation, especially in the first episode too. But yeah, it's a good time. I don't know if I can really say much more than that. I think that people should watch it more. That's all I can really say. It is a league of its own here, legitimately. But there are a couple things in the C tier that I think are at least kind of interesting. Like I said, I think Guyver has potential as a series, and Wannabes is kind of weird and strange in its own right. There's definitely some stuff at least in the C tier. I'm like, yeah, at least these things are different or have something about them which is standing out. I don't know if I'd recommend them all, but they're curious. Some more than others, definitely. But like my major recommendations are those top 5. But yeah, I do feel like in comparison to 85, this was a bit like a blood from a stone year. But 87 is probably going to be much easier because 87 is like the GOAT year. Though there's a lot of shit that came out in 87. There's so much stuff coming out because like, each year it seems like they become much bigger. We went from 22 titles in 85 on my list. This is basically 30, and then next year is going to be probably 50. If I'm lucky, 45 in total. So there is that. There's going to be a ridiculous amount, though I have seen a fair few of them because 87 is a very stacked year for classic OVAs. It probably is the peak era. I think that it's probably going to be the era. It might end up being the year with the most hits, or at least a number. I don't know in percentage. The percentage might be questionable, but like it might have the most hits per year just because it has so much to work through. There might be some difficulty getting through all of it, but like there's a lot of stuff in the top tier, or just stuff that I know is interesting that to go through in 87 at least. But yeah, that is the list. I will probably download this and give it to myself, post it places, and I will at some point I will edit this down into something that can go on the second channel as the 1986 tier list.